All right, good afternoon. We are going to be diving into financial literacy today. So it's Thursday. We're doing our normal live here. I'm going to wait just a minute for everybody to jump on to get everything ready from our end. And well, but today we're going to be diving into financial literacy for your teens, especially, or for probably anybody, but for your teens. I mean, it's funny that financial literacy is something that our country, at least in the United States, our country really struggles with. I found that most countries struggle with this because we deal with a lot of students from all over the world, and it's just a struggle everywhere. Maybe always has been. But what we want to talk about today is, diving into a couple of three core principles about teaching our kids financial literacy and some things that we want to do to be able to help them move ahead. So before we jump into that, though, we're going to, this is related to the content we're talking about, is related to, or comes out of our How Money Works course that we have available, and that's on our website. We also are, ask you to share this, give us a like. If you're here, if you're just popping in, just give us a like and show us so that you're listening. And if you have questions, throw them in there even before, or certainly, I mean, not before, but after this fact, or even during this live. So, all right, let's jump into the topic at hand. Here is talking about financial literacy. Um, and I have noticed as home in the homeschool community, and I know not people that are not homeschoolers, will pay attention to this too, because we have customers in different avenues, but a lot of them are homeschoolers. We're working kind of hard, spending a lot of time, spending a lot of effort, sometimes a lot of money, trying to get our kids academically ready. And the one thing me and some of the prominent homeschooler publishers have noticed uh, is that we're not a whole lot different than the rest of the world in terms of what we shoot for. Most of the homeschool community is shooting for college prep. That's changing. That is changing uh, pretty quickly, but it's changing worldwide. I mean, I'm sorry, it's changing outside the homeschool community also. We're seeing people that are not just college prep. We're seeing, I mean, you'll see every day articles in the Wall Street Journal and other major business trade rags saying they're devaluing the university. Then you see guys like Elon Musk and talk about the lack of value there. So but that's still what we're doing. We're heading toward that, and we're making some of the same mistakes that we make in public and private schools. Is that we talk about college prep as if that is the goal, and we are missing some of the bigger points like how do you make a living? And when you do make a living, what do you do with your money? Over and over again, I spend time in some of our graduate work where I'm dealing with professionals. I'm dealing with moms and dads themselves that are telling me they don't know how to do that. They make plenty of money. These people are making over six figures, and they don't know how to manage their money. They it's not that they're dumb. Obviously, they're highly intelligent. They're highly skilled. But they don't know how to do the things that we're about to talk about. At least two of those, they don't really understand how to do it, and many of them, not at all. And they will say things to me like, "We never learned this in K through 12, no matter what background and system they were in, nor did we learn this in the university." And sadly enough, that is true. It's oddly true in even business school graduates don't know how to do this. So we're going to talk about some of the basic skills that I think probably gives your son and daughter a higher probability of success, secondary and I do mean this, secondary only to the gospel and teaching them the word of God, is teaching them to manage money. And the word of God talks a whole lot about that in itself, is being good stewards of the money. So uh, we're going to talk specifically about budgeting. I hate the word budgeting. Actually, I don't hate it. My wife hates the word budgeting. Spending plan. Dave Ramsey, I think, refers to it. If you don't like the word budgeting, use the word spending plan. I don't know if it was Dave Ramsey or somebody else, but I'll credit Dave. But use the word spending plan. How do you plan to spend your money? Use to think about. The second thing is earning. Getting in the habit of thinking about earning our money and then investing and growing our money, taking care of it. So let's jump into these couple topics. I'm going to just start here with the beginning. Start with a simple spending plan. We oftentimes, and so if you have been through things, we call this budgeting. Dave Ramsey would tell you it's the key. It is absolutely crucial. If you have ever listened to him on a television show or a podcast or radio show or whatever he does, that's the number one issue he comes back to. You need to create a budget and live on it. And I counsel people more often than I want to think about on just this topic. Some people are family members, some people are friends, and some people are professionals I am working with. And I spend time talking about what I think is a high school, maybe even middle grade school level concept, but easy to talk about, difficult to implement, at least difficult to get started with. So let's talk about why this matters. Budgeting. I'm going to use the word spending plan. Having a plan for what you do with your money. I actually prefer that now. My wife has trained me to, prefer that term, having a plan for how you are going to spend your money. And be clear about it. It's not really your money. It's God's money. But how are you going to be a good steward of it? So to be more clear about what that is, but it's a spending plan. Getting our teenagers, getting our kids in the habit of thinking about money's coming into their pocket. What do they do with it? What is the path to be doing with this money? And one of the things is we want them to be biblically accurate. So we do in our home anyway, in tithing. So teaching your kids first and foremost in this spending plan that it's not your money, that you are the steward of it, but as the steward of it, you should create a plan. You're responsible. It's a biblical responsibility. First and foremost, tithing. But one of the ones I've seen a lot of people use is a 50-30-20 rule. You might consider it a 50-40-10 rule, depending how you want to do it, where you take 10 or 20% and you factor it out any way you want to. 10 or 20% is for tithe. And if you need to start 10, whatever it is, and I think it varies by how old your children are and where they are in their spending money. But so the way we used to do this is we had jars, and we would mark the kids' jars, and I'm sure this is nothing new, and we would have them something like here's spending money, here's kind of wants and fun money, and here is tithe, and we would mark at the jar. And so whenever we paid them for something, and usually what we were trying to pay them for was activities. We'll get to that later. We would try to pay it in a way that was easy for them to break up. In other words, rather than giving a kid a $20 bill, give them 21s, and teaching them the percentages. There's a little math in that too, right? Teaching them to break out the percentages and put it in the jars. It was a visual, physical representation of what's going on, because generally when we're older, it's not what we're doing. It's all handled by bank accounts and by automated tools. So, but that's what you just, and it doesn't really matter what we do, but the 50, 30, 20 or 60, 40, I mean, 60, 30, 10, pick some numbers and say, this sounds reasonable, and break it up. I've seen some people break it up also into, be a little more granular depending on what your kids care about, right? If they care about video games, you may have a percentage for video games, or clothing, a percentage for clothing. But what you're teaching your children to do is intentionally, when money comes into their pocket, first tithe, and then be intentional about what they do with the rest of it. That pile of money for video games, or spending, or wants category, whatever you want to call it, that pile of money, as they see it grow, then they have complete control of, what to do with that. Well, maybe not complete control, but they have a lot of control of what they get to use their money on. And there's nothing, I remember when we started doing this, there's nothing that makes a child more money conscious, more to pay attention to prices, to think about wants and desires versus needs. There's nothing more powerful than it being their money. When it comes to that jar with their money, they get really, really picky about what they spend their money on. And suddenly they don't need things as bad as they needed it when it was your money. And it may all be your money in the original, sense, but depending on how you do this, but you're teaching responsibility. You're giving them the responsibility to how to move this money, and you're teaching them a methodology how to handle this money, which is the same exact methodology that we use, hopefully, for your families. It's the same methodology we use for businesses. For a business, we do exactly the same thing. We have income coming in. We set aside for taxes, which is, some businesses may tithe, but we're going to set aside for taxes. For most businesses, for instance, they're going to set aside 25% for taxes, just knowing that's coming, of the various types of taxes there are, and there's many. And then they'll set others aside for different things, depending on the size of the business and the goals of the business. And, so this is just teaching your kids how everything in the economy works. Is money comes in and you make choices by what you do with it, because your job with this money is to be a steward. So the key thing here is to make it easy to do this, to make it simple. The simplicity is the key, which is, we tried more complicated things when we started out, and the jars and going and getting cash and small bills or change worked, right? That was simple, that you can see. And depending on where your kids are, you might actually have them use tools like the You Need a Budget, or some of Dave Ramsey's tools. There's a lot of free online tools and apps if they have phones. The sooner you can teach them to use the modern tools, the better. But the main thing is that they learn the concepts. And so don't overcomplicate the concept by the tool, which is something that we so often do. All right. So that's a spending plan, and that's just so critical. I'm probably, what's the word you're singing to the choir, because if you struggle with it, if you and your household and your spouse, you struggle with setting a budget or a spending plan, number one, if you struggle with setting a budget and it's always causing you grief, start using the word spending plan and thinking about it that way. It's somewhat freeing, just to change your mindset about what you're doing. But it can be a struggle. I think so just like it is for us, we want to think about it for our kids. It takes them some time to get used to this. The statistics I remember seeing, and it may come from Dave Ramsey's organization, but it was something like, when a family starts budgeting it takes about 6 months to get it worked out. The first month is sloppy, messy, incorrect. The second month is a little bit of fine tuning, but still sloppy. And as along the way, as the year goes, things happen that were unexpected. Like we have Christmas, we have birthdays, and we have things happen, right? That we know are there, but we forget to think about planning for them. So those are the kind of things that you want to instill with your kids. Is in the planning is also some patience in learning the process, or maybe we have to instill that with ourselves. I don't know. So we're going to go from spending plan though. Now let's talk about to the side, because if you it fixes a whole bunch of problems. So let's go to the second one here, which is the earning. And I'm using the term learn to earn. In our society, earning, well, there's a whole lot of people who get without earning. And unfortunately, as parents, sometimes we teach that. We teach that you can get without earning. We have allowances and things like that many people will give. But teaching your kids to work and to earn the money. So it's much more powerful that somebody earns money, just like when it's their money, they don't want to spend it because they're more conscious of the spending decision. Kids are a lot smarter than we think, and you find this out when you give them responsibilities. It is when they had to work for it, and now it's their money. It really becomes more concrete, but you've made the connection to them how the real world works. You don't just get free money. Money comes from serving other people. And if we start teaching that concept right now, earning comes from serving other people. That's why people pay you money. And so, and the beauty of it is we're earning using God's given talents. As I was looking at Ecclesiastes this morning, and it talks about, I think it's in Ecclesiastes 9, where he says, put our hearts into our work, because there will become a one day when our work ceases. We should enjoy our work. I mean, we see that a couple of times in Ecclesiastes, as well as some other places in the Bible. We should enjoy our work because, and this was put to me really in an interesting way. We were having this discussion last night in a Bible study at the church, and this guy says, God created everything. Light, we create the earth, we create the animals, and then God has given to man to name the animals, which sounds, as this guy was saying, sounds trivial, but it's not. It's kind of like God has delegated now the responsibility to us to subdue the earth. And so the work that we do is the work given to us by God. And the fact that we have specific skills and passions and things we enjoy working and things that we are good at is that delegation going on, where God is giving us the ability to serve Him through serving others. And we're part of His creation plan there. We are fulfilling that in His own way, if you will, in God's way. So, earning money is, whether it's a part-time job or where they go get a part-time job, like a lot of kids that we see work at Chick-fil-A and things like that, or they're mowing grass, or they're doing something just to earn money. It's a valuable skill to learn, obviously, because that's what they're going to probably be doing. So part-time jobs or side businesses, and let's not kid ourselves. It's no different, right? We have a friend that started a side business at the age of 14, mowing lawns, by the time, I forget what he told me, but by the time he was 19 or 20, he was still mowing lawns. But at this point, it had become such a big enterprise. His father quit his day job and went to work for the son. So these things that they start at a young age are real, right? They are just like any other business. They are real enterprises. If they go to work for Chick-fil-A or they go to work somewhere else, it's real. They really are serving and they are really learning. And and one of the things, as now as we are earning, it puts a little more concreteness into a couple of things. That number one is the giving. I earned, now I put it into my spending plan. The money that came into my pocket is the giving. But another powerful thing that we get as soon as we start earning money is we start understanding taxation. There's nothing more powerful to get the kids interested in the government is when they get a paycheck from somebody and they realize how much tax got taken out of their paycheck. Because as adults, we just start to ignore it because we become numb to it. But that gets people interested in why did that happen and where's the money going to, and something we need to learn, right? And if you're doing a business activity yourself, when your kids pay the taxes, if they burn $1,000 mowing grass, when they pay the taxes at the end of the year, which they should, they'll be asking that same question: where's that money going for taxation? So teaching them to earn, powerful tools that we can do. So teaching somebody to earn and teaching them somebody to spend is some of the plans that we can use to get concrete, to not create future people that we're supporting. Let's just face it. You'll notice, by the way, as we look in society, we have generational wealth, which people sometimes make fun of and that scour at is generational wealth. But because the opposite of generational wealth is generational poverty, we see a lot of that because our kids are learning not only what we are saying, and even when we say things and it seems like it goes in one ear out the other, it's there. Right? It means something, but they're also learning what we're doing. So if you and your household are struggling with budgeting and earning and things like that, the most powerful thing you can do for your kids is for you guys to struggle through it and let them see you struggle through it and let them see you get a better handle on things. And that's a powerful lesson. And we've seen that happen in many cases. Matter of fact, Dave Ramsey's household would be one of them that struggled through being in debt and walking through that. So the last thing here we want to say, and I'm collapsing a whole bunch of things that's in our course, that's in our How Money Works course, and you will see, by the way, so they've put over there, she's put over there to use a coupon for the How Money Works course and career planning, which is also related to this stuff. So there's a coupon in the comments there. So let's talk about investing now. That's the last part here. Investing, and excuse me for the typo on the screen. It's not supposed to be rowing God's resources. It's supposed to be growing God's resources. That's what happens when you let me type things. So actually that was a cut and paste, but that's how poorly that was done. So investing for the future. We're going to be growing God's resources, and we just can't. Let's see if we can even. The rowing is making me crazy. Can we fix that on the fly? Yes, we can. Okay, it's now growing God's resources. We're no longer rowing. All right. So investing for the future. So this is another area I'm finding a lot of people and some even high earning people who have no clue what to do, mostly because they've never stopped and thought about it because they're smart enough to do this. But it's a blind spot. when I work with these corporate people, I find a few that really seem to understand it, and then most that don't, and they're not paying attention to it all. And I see a lot of 40-year-old couples that have zero money invested, that are making $100,000 a year. So I see that a lot. And that has some serious ramifications when it's at scale. We want to be the opposite of that, right? Investing is the best way to grow your wealth over time. And I do think this is a godly script. To be wise stewards means to take care of one of the groups of people you need to take care of is your own family. And investing is one of the most powerful ways to do that. But it also is a super powerful way to generate a lot of money over time for you to use in God's kingdom. And suddenly you will see powerful things. We were having that discussion last night about how the particular church we're part of, how it has invested, and now it's got an abundance of cash that it needs to make good decisions for God's kingdom. I've seen that there's a book by David Green, Hobby Lobby, that talks about exactly how Hobby Lobby has been as a business, has invested, and has done the same thing. And we do this as an individual, right? We should be investing and invest early. Man, investing early is powerful. I think it was Albert Einstein was one of the guys that said that compound interest is the most powerful tool in the world, or something like that. That's a paraphrase. But talking about the ability to earn money with your money. That's extremely powerful over time. And especially when we're teaching our kids 20s and 30s, or even teens, to start investing at small amounts of money. And if I remember, that was one of our jars, because I think we actually had 5 jars, and one of them was investing. And so let's take this small amounts of money and start investing it. And it looks like nothing at first to the kids, but over the years, they will start to see it. So, for instance, if a teen takes $100 at the age of 16 on a 7% return, which is pretty easy to do, this is going to grow significantly by the time I've had the number written down here, but I took it away. By the time they're an adult, but if we start doing this every time we get paid, right, we start making that part of the spending plan, then we see incredible growth of their money. Because logically, the answer I'm usually telling corporate people that I'm working with is there should be a time in your life when your money starts to make more than your work. When the money that you have invested starts to earn more every year than the amount of your salary. And if you're doing this right, that's naturally going to happen. That's going to happen. It doesn't mean you're retiring necessarily, but it does mean you've put your money to work and investing it. And that gives you all kinds of benefits, especially how to serve the kingdom. One of the benefits of serving the kingdom is it makes you not have to be dependent on the kingdom or the government. No guarantees about that, but your likelihood to not be dependent on somebody else goes way up with financial resources. So the first steps to doing this with our kids is creating accounts. For most people, they would be custodial accounts, and you can just go online with fidelity.com, or best place to set up with your kids account. I don't like doing banks, but fidelity.com or some of these major players out there. I'm going to just mention that one because I'm sure of that one. Vanguard is another one, but they have some questionable things maybe going on right now. And just creating an account there, and it's just like a bank account. You can create a custodial account for your child, which means you're in charge of it. It has their name on it. When they turn a certain age, it's theirs. But you can do this and just start putting some money in there, investing it in a index mutual fund, which means it just follows the stock market. There's nothing magical about it. And if you call up Fidelity and say, this is what I want to do, I want to test up something for my kids, they will just walk you right through it. If you go to their website, it will be right there. But it's a great way, and letting your kids see it, letting your kids be their part of it, setting up this account, letting them see what happens to this account as it grows over time. Sometime later when they're 20s or something, they'll look at this and say, hey, that did something. And especially when they start earning their own money at a corporate job or something, and their tendency will be to not invest. There's a lot of that going on. So, okay. So I'm going to cut it there, and we could talk about this all day long. But I wanted to stick to those main three things: creating a spending plan, learning to earn, and then investing for the future. Teaching your children those three tools. Now, those are all part of the How Money Works course. We go through the basic budgeting stuff. We look at more investing stuff than most adults, even educated adults, know anything about. How the stock market works, what it is, how to invest in it, the kind of things we just talked about, and how to earn. We go through that, the concept of earning. We go through the company of one model, how to think like a business owner, even if you're working for somebody else. That's in the course. It's the same thing we teach corporate professionals and entrepreneurs. So it's just taught to the level of a high school student. So, but just remember this, we forget this as parents. They do absorb what we say. I'm often used to tell my wife that they don't hear a word we say, and she's like, no, they hear it and they act on it, and it's there. And sometimes you can see it. Sometimes you don't see it till later, but they really, really, really watch us and what we're doing. So I will say, even if this stuff is for you, this course will help you. It's like I say, it's the stuff that I teach to adults. All right. So we are going to cap that here, though, and we will be back here. Now, we are back here generally on 1 o'clock on Thursday. We may be changing that time for some of our reasons and some of your reasons. Apparently, it's maybe not the best time to be doing this, but we may be changing the time. But anyway, we'll post it out. You'll see when it's live. It will obviously be recorded. So whether you're watching this now or you're watching this later, we do appreciate if you would give us a like, a share, and feel free to give us a comment. Or if you have questions, ask a question or send us an email at support@askdrcallahan.com. All right, we will cap it there. Talk to you next week.